Hey folks, my name is John Woods and I work for an organization called Real Talk. Real Talk is a joint initiative between Burnaby Association, Possibilities, and Kinsight, and we are about trying to make it more comfortable for folks to have conversations with the people who they support around things like dating, love, relationships, sex, sexuality, that kind of thing. It's my sincere hope that you and all your families are surviving COVID at the moment, that you're surviving social distancing, whatever that looks like for you all. And I'm really grateful that you are taking some time out of your schedule to join into this online sort of training module series and learning a little bit more about how you can show up for people who you're supporting in maybe a slightly different way when it comes to supporting them around things like dating, love, relationships, sex, and sexuality. This is going to be a series of short-ish modules, maybe about 10 to 15 minutes each. You can either watch them in order, and they will have an order that's indicated, or if there's particular subjects that you're interested in diving into, you can just go straight to those subjects as well. But we will be posting these fairly regularly throughout this period of social distancing, so that folks have, maybe some tools to work with. Maybe you are working with somebody individually in their home. Maybe you are a family member, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, and you are supporting somebody with diverse abilities, and you are realizing you have lots of time on your hands right now and you'd like to maybe dive into one of these conversations that's maybe a little bit more difficult, that's a little bit more awkward, that you've been putting off until you had more time for it. Well, maybe now's the time. As we go through this series, we'll be making reference to the Real Talk website from time to time. You can reach it at real-talk.org. There's lots of videos there, lots of resources, lots of information, so maybe just open it in another window and be prepared to click over to that window from time to time as we go through this. So in this series, we're going to talk about a number of different subjects, things like who might support around sex and sexuality and dating relationships be relevant for, who might it not be relevant for. We'll talk about how to say answer a question. If somebody asks us a question about dating, love, relationships, sex, or sexuality, and it maybe catches us off guard, how do we give an answer that's effective? We'll talk about some things like reasons people say that folks with diverse abilities shouldn't know about sex and sexuality. We'll talk about reasons why people with diverse abilities maybe should know about sex and sexuality. But I want to start off with just a sort of general overview, and we'll talk about the ways in which sexuality might come up in our professional practice if we're support staff, or just in our day-to-day relationships with people if we are family members or friends of folks with diverse abilities. For example, sometimes people are curious about where to get accurate, up-to-date information about sex, sexuality, sexual health. Like any other area of technology and science, new discoveries are happening all the time. New best practices are being discovered. New products are coming on the market. So where to get up-to-date information about sexual health is something that's on a lot of people's minds. Another thing that we may find, whether we're professional staff or family members, is somebody that we're supporting is maybe having some behaviors that are causing problems for them or for other folks, and we're curious about what might be the reason why these things are coming up and what might be some of the best ways to support people who are displaying some of these behaviors. So we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. Sometimes when people are employed professionally as supporters, they may be curious or confused about what their organization's policies and procedures are when it comes to supporting dating, love, relationships, sex. They might worry that if they say the wrong thing, they could face disciplinary actions from their employer. So we're going to dive in a little bit to some of the policies and procedures that the partner organizations that support Real Talk, that being Burnaby Association, Possibilities, and Kinsight, what their policies and procedures actually say about supporting people when it comes to this part of their life. A lot of the time we also will experience maybe there's somebody that we're supporting and we really feel that if they had some more information or support around dating, love, relationships, and sex and sexuality, that things would be better for them. But other people in their support network, whether that's another staff member or a family member, just feels that it's not appropriate for them to know this kind of thing. They're not on board with us even discussing sex or sexuality. So in those situations, we may feel like it's a really good idea to support people around this, but we don't want to do it if other folks in their support network are a no to it. So what we'll discuss is some talking points, some ways that we can maybe help get other people on board if they're uncomfortable about discussing this kind of thing, or if they're uncomfortable with the person you're supporting even knowing about this kind of thing. We've got some talking points that might help convince folks who are reluctant. Another huge question that comes up for us, whether we are a family member, a friend, or a professional supporter, is how do we keep people safe? We do know a recent study in the US showed that folks with cognitive disabilities are up to 7 times more likely to experience sexual abuse than the general population. So of course, this is something that's on all of our minds. How can we support somebody to have a positive experience around sex, sexuality, dating, relationships, while at the same time helping to keep them safer? Because we know that they may be more vulnerable to being abused, exploited, misled, that kind of thing. One of the number one questions that we get at Real Talk events, whether they are folks with diverse abilities coming to our pizza parties, or whether it's professional development that we're doing with staff and supporters, is how do I support somebody to find a partner? It's pretty clear to us that a lot of the folks that are coming to our Real Talk pizza parties, folks with diverse abilities, are very, very interested in finding a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, a partner. We also know that maybe sometimes some of the typical platforms and ways that folks go about finding partners, whether those are, say, nightclubs or dating apps, might not always be the best solution for some of the folks that we're supporting. So what are the alternatives? What else is available out there right now? We do know that nowadays more people in North America meet their partner through internet dating apps than through any other avenue, whether that other avenue is nightclubs, meeting through friends, meeting through sports teams, clubs, etc. So it's not surprising that a lot of the folks that we're supporting might be curious about these platforms as well and want to get on them and try them out. So if you're supporting somebody who's interested in trying out one of these dating apps, how can you provide effective support around that? How can you increase the chances that using a dating app might be a positive experience for the person rather than a negative experience for the person? A thing that sometimes comes up when we're providing support around sex and sexuality is that somebody might need clinical services every once in a while. Perhaps somebody you're supporting is interested in getting contraception, maybe birth control pills or the Depo-Provera shot or something like that. Maybe somebody who you're supporting who has a dating life has just had some symptoms show up that might be an STI and needs to get them checked out. Maybe somebody who you're supporting has questions about sexual health and they don't really want to phone a hotline or email their question. They actually want to sit down with a medical professional and ask that professional their questions about sexual health. Well, all of these things can be done at a sexual health clinic, so we'll talk as well about some places that people can go for these clinical services, both during normal times when COVID isn't happening, but also right now with the COVID pandemic on and a lot of clinical services being scaled back. We'll talk about what is currently available. As we mentioned before, a lot of the folks that we're supporting may have experienced sexual abuse at some time or other in their life, and people may be curious about what kind of services and support groups are out there for folks who have survived this. And if you're supporting somebody who has gone through this experience and they would like to get some support around it, a lot of times people are curious, like, where can I go? Who can I talk to? So we'll talk about some organizations that provide that kind of support for survivors. A big question that some folks have is about what kinds of topics are appropriate to discuss with the people that we're supporting and what kinds of topics are not appropriate to discuss with the folks that we're supporting. People also may be curious about whether or not it's okay for them to give opinions about things when it comes to values or ethics. So we'll dive into those topics as well. When it's appropriate to give an opinion and when it's appropriate maybe to remain neutral in terms of your own opinions or your own values. Another thing that folks report to us a lot when they're coming to our professional development courses is that they would really like to be better about supporting folks around dating, love, relationships, sex, sexuality, but they just find the whole subject so uncomfortable and they really want to get better, at being able to discuss this kind of thing, but they'd like some tips on how to just start to feel more comfortable with the subject, or how not to get flustered or upset if a difficult topic of conversation has to come up, either because someone's asked us a question out of the blue or because something's going on that really needs to be addressed in a conversation. Lastly, I'm really curious to hear from folks who are tuning into this series. How has sexuality come up in your practice? Are there situations that have come up where you didn't know what to do? Was there a situation that came up where you actually provided support that you thought was really effective and helpful, and you'd like to share that information with others? Are there conundrums that you're facing that I haven't actually mentioned in any of these topics that you think we really need to be talking about? So I'd really encourage folks to reach out to me at john@real-talk.org. We're just getting started with creating this series of videos, so we definitely have room at the moment to dive into subjects. If people want to send me subjects that they would like some feedback or some support around, we can make sure that we're including these subjects in this series and giving them the airtime that they deserve. So that's it for now. Next episode, we're going to dive into some more specific stuff, but I just wanted to start out by giving everybody an overview of where we will be going in this series. So thanks for joining me today, and we will have another episode for you very soon.